get going with that.
No problem. This is the important part. So perfect timing.
Yeah.
All right, so an FIU and DC Fly-In is a 3-day experiential seminar that is all about learning both how to gain an internship or career in Washington, but also how the policy infrastructure works. So if you know that government makes laws, this exposes you to what that looks like across different branches of government, what really happens in a congressional office, what kind of staff members play different roles in congressional offices, what's the role of a federal agency, what's a law is passed, and things like that. And then outside of the government, what is the role of a think tank producing research in a policy area? What are the roles of both partisan and nonpartisan advocacy groups who are trying to raise awareness of their cause and their position on an issue? Our fly-in seminars, some of which have been in person and some of which have been virtual, and we'll share what the plans for this semester are, include those face-to-face visits with federal agencies, congressional offices, advocacy organizations, think tanks, and even companies that have their lobbying presence here in Washington. Every semester, we collaborate, FIU and DC and Campus Life, on several fly-ins. One of them is known as the Future of Fly-In series. This is a more research themed experience, which is one of the two that we're offering this semester, and then also on a separate fly-in. So last semester we collaborated in our Black Student Union Black Leadership fly-in, and I will let Carrie explain in an upcoming slide what that second fly-in is this time around. In addition to these visits, some of the fly-ins, particularly the Future of series, but some of the other ones might have similar things built in, include national dialogue events that, as I was referencing in the ideas exchange section, include faculty, students, and experts from outside of FIU, and policy hack or similar interactive experiences where students that are part of the flying cohort have the chance to work together in groups to propose policy solutions, not only to each other, but to congressional staffers.
Okay, so I know that probably several of you who are joining us today heard about the Women in Politics and Policy fly-in. So that is the second, I guess, specialized fly-in that we do for the spring. So that will actually be the first of our 2 fly-ins. And because of the timing of that, we are planning for it to be 100% virtual this year. We did have a really very strong couple of fly-ins last semester that were fully virtual. The students still had great feedback. I know that at least one of our participants from those is on here today, so I'm sure she would be willing to vouch for the fact that they were very interactive, they were very informative, they still had a great opportunity to connect with a lot of policymakers and thinkers and people who can kind of help you position yourself for the kinds of things that you are looking to do. So Eric pulled together some fun facts for us here about women in general in government in the US. 141 women, including 51 women of color, were sworn into the Congress that just started now at the beginning of this year, which is the most in history. The previous 2 years ago, when there was the last class that entered, that was the most in history for the US. So we've just increased again the number of women. Interesting was that this time the number of Republican women increased significantly. So, but still a smaller by far group than Democratic women who were sworn in. But in any case, interesting there that by contrast, 60% or more of the lawmakers in Rwanda, just for comparison purposes, are women. So we've still got some work to do here, but we're working on it. 26% of Congress is now female. So this fly-in provides you with an opportunity to learn more about policy making. A lot of students, maybe are interested in fields that would bring them to the DC area, or know that there would be some kind of a policy component to what you were doing, but maybe haven't had that experience or can't really imagine how you might use your degree differently in that context. So we will be connecting you with folks who are at all different levels of those processes, from the conceptual to the practical, and give you an opportunity to ask them some questions. You will hopefully be inspired to run for office and or learn how to apply for jobs and internships. There are lots of internships available, and we've got many great partners in the DC area who are eager to have FIU interns. And Eric and his team there in the DC office are instrumental in creating those opportunities, that pipeline for you to make those connections. So, the fly-in is certainly educational in that you're going to learn a lot about different things that, what's sort of the hot button issues that are affecting women are the things that you'll be connected to and have an opportunity to ask questions or give your insight to people. But it will also open up doors for you to connect with folks who may be hiring or who may be doing internships or things that would position you to get a start in your career. So very, very exciting opportunity in that regard.
And great photo here from the
Yeah.
last year's visit to Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez's office.
Yeah, that was a big hit. Going to her office and seeing that wall of Post-its was a very big moment for people. And then we followed her down the street, actually, by accident. We were crossing the street at the same time. Everybody was having a little fangirl moment that we were crossing the street at the same time as her. So the virtual fly-in format, we have set this up that it's similar to the in-person format, which is that it takes place over 3 days. We do have a different schedule. When we go to DC, obviously you fly in and we just hit the ground running, literally in some cases, to get from the airport to the DC office to get started with meetings. And we're just go, go, go for that 3 days until we get on the plane to come back. In the virtual fly-in format, we're still spreading out the content over 3 days. And so we will expect full participation, but it won't be 9 to 5. It's not going to be a full day. So Eric does a really nice job, and I don't envy him the task of curating the agendas because he's working with lots of different offices and contacts and people in DC to try and schedule to give you a variety of contact points. So, it'll usually be blocks. There may be some things that are open to more than just FIU. Sometimes it's a webinar that's going on that may be of interest and connect well to our topic, but not be a specifically FIU program. So we just ask that you be available for the 3 days. We have not set which 3 days the program will run during that week of March 8th, because we need to get a better sense of what else is happening up there at that point to see kind of where the program takes us, okay? There's also opportunity, so there's, as I said, over those 3 days, that's a lot of panels and webinar type things, but lots of interaction. And then there's some time for group reflection and teamwork. So usually toward the end of the 3 days, we'll have an opportunity for you to break into small groups and do some kind of, usually a little policy hack or something that lets you kind of pull together all of the information that you've learned in those 3 days and come up with a solution to a problem. And then you present that. So it gives you an opportunity to work together in those teams. Those are usually a lot of fun, and we get some really interesting ideas out of those. And then you will have connections to upcoming jobs and internships and virtual exposure to local history and culture. A lot of that comes also through our pre-sessions. So we do have 3 workshops leading up to the 3-day actual fly-in. And so we'll do some preparation there to get you ready to interact with the kind of people that you'll be hearing from. We don't take for granted that everybody knows how policy making works in DC. So Eric has a really great program presentation about that. And then all of this goes toward, you have the opportunity to earn the DC Advocacy Communications and Careers Digital Badge. So we'll give you more information about that as we get further along, but you'll have lots of opportunities to apply the knowledge that you gain and to get a digital badge that would then appear on your LinkedIn. So in terms of the timeline for the Women in Politics and Policy fly-in, the applications are open now. The deadline is going to be 9 a.m. on January 25th. So instead of making the cutoff at midnight on a Friday night, we're giving you that extra weekend. So you have until 9 a.m. on that Monday morning, the 25th, to submit an application. And then as soon as possible after we've taken a look at all the applications, we'd be reaching out to set up group interviews. So those would be later in the week of the 25th and maybe the beginning part of February. We do group interviews. It'll be a Zoom similar to this, and we just have some opportunity to chat with each of you in that group setting. And then we'll let you know about selections as soon as possible after that. Sometimes, within a day of the last group meeting, we'll send out the notifications of who's been selected. And then the fly-in workshops before the actual 3-day program will be on the Tuesdays of February 16th, 23rd, and March 2nd. Usually we do those late afternoon, but we'll also try and get a sense from folks if there's a group that gets selected that maybe is better to meet in the morning, then we can be a little bit flexible with that. So we'll worry about the particulars of that. And then the program itself, the week of March 8th. And again, we'll get those dates pinned down as soon as possible so that you know what 3 days that we need to look at. Chloe put in a note here. Last semester's virtual seminar series included a lot of interaction opportunities network. Applying was the wisest investment of my time apart from studying. I'm still reaping the benefits. I love that, Chloe. Thank you so much. So yeah, that's a little bit about the process and the timeline. And I think Eric is going to talk about our other opportunity in the spring.
Quickly following what will surely be a success of our Women in Politics and Policy fly-in, our research-focused fly-in for the semester is the future of environmental resilience for economic growth and national security. A thing that I love about our Future of Flying series is, as you can already tell by this title that I had to put on 2 lines and in different font sizes, is that we examine the nuanced intersections of a broad topic. So in this case, this is all about the environment and making it resilient from environmental disasters, resilient from coastal changes and sea level changes and climate changes. But this is also intersecting with our nation's economy and security. A premise for this particular one is the notion that a sustainable planet and flourishing economy don't have to be at odds. These programs are a great way to explore what FIU researchers and academic departments are up to, as well as what DC-based leaders are up to. So for those of you who are not aware, FIU in the College of Art, Sciences, and Education is launching a new program in environmental finance, which looks at how new financial and investment models are taking into consideration the risk to investments of climate change and other environmental disasters. And what this does is make sure both that the financial investments that people are making are less risky because they will take into account potential environmental considerations, but it also spurs and encourages investments in types of development and technologies that will improve the environment because of that win-win environment for the environment and economy. It also takes into account the national security element of things. The more that the nation's federal infrastructure is being used to respond to hurricanes and flooding and other disasters, the less ready it is for other defense scenarios that are needed. And of course, environmental and climate concerns are also affecting intelligence and military installations and things of that nature. In addition to the fact that FIU researchers are looking at all of these areas, this triple focus ensures that the highest number of federal agencies, nonprofit organizations, and research entities here in Washington will be relevant to this theme, and that you'll be able to learn about career opportunities at all of them, regardless if they're looking at this topic from one or all 3 of these angles. The format of this fly-in is still to be determined depending on the factors of safety of being able to travel to DC in April. So while it is on one hand quite likely that the virtual format that Dr. Montgomery discussed a few slides ago would apply to this one as well, we are leaving open the possibility of bringing this cohort to Washington. Either way, the students who apply to this fly-in program should be available for the 3-day period during the week of April 5th, during which this flying will take place, because whether it's virtual or in person, there are going to be programs scheduled pretty consistently, though with some breaks if it's virtual, throughout the 3 days of the program. Like the Women in Politics session, the applications are open now for this one. The deadline will also be on a Monday morning on February 22nd. And from there, the general concept of this timeline follows the same pattern, that the same week of that Monday when they're due, probably by the next day, you will be informed if you were invited to a group interview session that would take place late on the second half of the week of the 22nd. And then from the 3-week period of March 15th, 23, and 30th, you will have sessions that prepare you for everything that you would need to know about how to engage with the folks that we introduce you to get career advice out of them, and to have smart and intelligent questions about their role in the policymaking process.
Okay, so a little bit about the application requirements. They are the same for pretty much all of our DC fly-ins. It's a pretty straightforward application. So either of these fly-in opportunities are open to all FIU students, whether you're undergraduate, graduate, professional student. We welcome and encourage applicants from all of the programs at FIU who have a strong passion for the specific theme. You do not necessarily have to be in an environment related major. You do not have to be in women's studies. You do not have to be in, economics or any of those kinds of things in particular, but you have to have a passion for the specific theme. I think what we've found is that folks with any variety of majors will find some piece of something within the fly-in that will connect back to their major in a way that they maybe hadn't considered it would. So definitely welcome and encourage folks to apply from all different majors. You do need a minimum 3.0 GPA, and you must be enrolled in a minimum of 9 credit hours. That's for undergraduates. For graduate students, we can be flexible, particularly for doctoral students. Sometimes that would be more like a 3 or a 6 credit minimum, depending on where you are in your program. And then, of course, you have to be in good conduct standing with the university. I know that we have a number of applications already in for the Women in Politics and Policy fly-in. So some of you may have already been through this and seen, but for those of you who have not seen the application, basically we're going to be asking you why you're interested in the program, whichever program that you're applying for. We do ask that you provide a resume, and then there's a question about any relevant organizations that you would like to quote unquote visit, whether those be in person or virtual. And that helps Eric also with knowing who to reach out to for some of the different things. If 6 people say, I really want to know more about this organization, then that might prompt him to try and schedule something with someone from that area. We would ask your DC internship and career plans. Are you interested in doing an internship in DC? Do you have aspirations to go into, government, federal government work after you graduate? Those kinds of things we're looking to understand. And then we ask you to pick an article addressing the impact of whatever the fly-in topic is on South Florida or other relevant communities. So I think for the Women in Politics and Policy, you probably have a lot of latitude there on the kind of article you might be looking for, things about, anything that's going on in politics this week. You've got plenty to choose from, and I would say you want to be looking for the role of gender perhaps in those things to make it relevant for that fly-in. So we'll ask you to just give a brief little review of that, and then during the group interview we'll be referencing those articles. So keep in mind, whatever you pick should be something that actually spoke to you in some way. Don't just like pick a random thing to upload. But otherwise, that's it. Basic application questions.
On the topic of future DC career and internship plans, the FIU and DC team absolutely sees these fly-ins as a beginning stage of our pipeline to internships and careers. So we absolutely do value when an applicant is planning to do a DC internship before they graduate and or to pursue a career in DC after. they graduate. If there's a really good example in there of how somebody intends to stay local but needs this policy training knowledge to engage in an important issue area from outside of DC, that's obviously valuable as well. But we are absolutely looking to support students who are hoping to be in DC in one capacity or time or another. A great FIU partner that if you haven't heard of, you should definitely know they exist is a company up here in the DC area called MITRE, not El Mitre as I sometimes think of it in the Miami context, but MITRE is a nonprofit corporation that operates several FFRDCs or federally funded research and development centers. And this is absolutely part of the DC governmental ecosystem, in addition to things I mentioned earlier in terms of wanting to know how Congress operates, how federal agencies operate, how think tanks do research for policy. We definitely want to explore and have you be aware of how non-governmental entities like MITRE engage in research, technological development, and even policy development on behalf of federal government agency clients. MITRE in particular has a stated goal of hiring a high number of FIU interns specifically every summer. And they will be bringing them up in this fly-in information session because they will be participating in one or both of our fly-ins in some capacity where relevant speakers from the organization, including some FIU alumni, will be some of the speakers that you meet, and you might be hearing more from them about their organization and recruitment goals throughout these fly-ins. But even early on, before our fly-ins begin, they are hosting 2 information sessions. January 26th from 3:30 to 6 o'clock p.m. I will dig up the link for them to put in the chat while we're answering questions, since you obviously cannot click on my PowerPoint, but I will encourage you to check those out. I will say that a lot of their summer internship programs are for STEM and engineering type majors. So that describes you, or if you know people in STEM and engineering majors looking for highly paid summer internships, I encourage you to share this with them. But they also do a lot of policy work. And so if you explore MITRE's website and you identify a policy area that they work on that you're very interested in, even from a non-science perspective, I would love to hear from you about that so we can pass that information along to the recruiters that we know at MITRE. So I'm going to get the link for that. For those of you wondering, how can I apply? Because it sounds amazing, and I've been hearing a lot about how to apply, but I don't know where to go. We have a very straightforward and sensible web address at flyin.fiu.edu. That'll take you to a page that includes what you see here. Both of these fly-in opportunities are listed right next to each other with the relevant application deadlines and program dates. You can click on either links to apply for those programs. And this page also has information about the DC Advocacy, Communications, and Careers digital badge. If you are not familiar with the concept of a digital badge, this is a way that you can earn a credential that you can display on your LinkedIn or to employers or in any other format to show not only that you participated in these programs, but what you learned. Students who are accepted to the fly-in and then choose to earn the digital badge, in addition to participating in all the content sessions, will do several assignments, including overall reflection, a LinkedIn post that shares some of the career advice that you got during the fly-in to your LinkedIn contacts so other people can benefit from the career advice, and a couple of other written pieces of reflection. Those are turned in, and then you are awarded the digital badge. The digital badge platform that FIU uses is very cool, where you get a unique verification link that you can share with anyone. And if you post this on your LinkedIn and someone clicks on your digital badge, it'll pop up and show your name, the date you earned the badge, what program you did to earn the badge. And it's very displayable and shows that you are ready to pursue advocacy and careers in the DC context with some great communication skills. We're going to take questions now while I go paste the MITRE information session link in the chat. I will leave, at least for a little bit, of the contact information of both Dr. Montgomery and myself. And if you have a question, feel free to jump in. And if you're having trouble jumping in and know where the hand raise button is, you can use that, and we'll keep eye out for hands as well. But feel free to jump on in.
Hi, I have a question, please.
Yeah, and
As
I'll
far
say if you have questions, if you can introduce yourself before asking the question in terms of not just major, but your policy interest area and what brings you to this session today. We'd love to know who you are before hearing your questions.
Okay, hi, my name is Nikki. I'm a public admin major in the Pathways program. So I'm bachelor's and master's. What bring me in, I'm interested in policy and implementation, especially from a women's standpoint. So therefore, that's what brings me in. So I was very interested. As far as my question, is in regards to like the selection process. I know it's limited availability or it's limited selection. I did review everything and did like a checklist based on the information you provided. But my question was, when you guys asked us to provide our resume, if we don't have any experience in that area, is that something that's going to deter from selection or no?
No, definitely not. We don't expect you to have prior experience in policy in order to take advantage of this program. So definitely that will not be a deterrent in any way. What we're looking for is really your strong interest in what we're trying to share with you through this experience. So, if you have some policy background, great. It's going to be easier for you to maybe understand, where some of our speakers are coming from and how all of this kind of fits together. But if you do not have that experience, we are going to share information with you all about how policy is developed and who are the players in that and how does that work. So definitely not a problem.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Absolutely, positively, Nikki. It was nice to meet you and hear some of your interests. And this in the way that these fly-ins are part of the FIU and DC pipeline to a future DC internship. We are totally here to use this as something that makes you marketable for a future internship. So something like that is not on your resume now. It'll help you get that on your resume as long as you express that strong passion for one of these topics. We'd love to hear introductions of a few more folks, even if you don't have questions. So if you do have one, jump in and introduce yourself. But I also will be asking a few other folks, especially, I'll say, if you are planning on applying to one of these things, it won't hurt for Dr. Montgomery and myself to have seen your face and remember your name prior to the application process. And so we invite some introductions as well.
It's a not too subtle nudge. I like that.
I'll go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Carissa Gervasi, and I'm a PhD student in the Earth and Environment Department. So my research is very focused on South Florida environmental issues. So I'm very interested in the environmental fly-in. I've always been interested in, environmental politics and policy. So interested to get to learn more about, how that happens in DC, and I'm graduating in the fall. So hopefully kind of lead me to careers possibly.
Excellent.
We are very interested in you applying to the program with that background.
I'll go ahead and introduce myself.
Please.
My name is Yusra Ben-Crane. I'm an international relations major at FIU, and I'm getting a certificate in Spanish and modern languages department. And so far I'm in the Model United Nations at FIU. So I hope that gives me some more experience into politics, and I'm hoping to apply. And is my video? Oh.
Yeah, your video just went.
Sorry.
There you go.
I'm hoping to apply and hopefully gain more experience and knowledge and, network and, see where it takes me. Because I'm still a sophomore, so I feel like I have time to build my resume. I'm excited to see.
Excellent. Thanks for joining us today.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Maureen, it looks like you unmuted yourself.
Yes, I did. Hi, Maureen Thompson. And since we last met, I'm a PhD candidate, no longer a
Yay,
student. I'm very
congrats.
excited about that. I write about horticultural history, so I'm actually interested in, I've written about women in horticultural history, but right now my dissertation is going to be involving the seed industry and how it's affected the environment. So, it's sort of like the intersection of both of your programs. So I'm excited. A lot of my research, I have to research at the archives in Washington, D.C. I met Eric in June of 19, and I have to get back to the archives once they open up. So hopefully I'll be seeing you in Washington, D.C. at some point again.
Yes, that was a fun day when you were there. Hey, I will change my virtual background quickly to help you reminisce from the time that you visited FIU in DC in person. Does that look familiar? Yeah, it was an enjoyable time when we had FIU visitors on a regular basis. We still do have some, including our environmental researchers on occasion. Congratulations, Maureen, on reaching candidacy.
Thank you.
And I just want to say, Maureen, since you are working on things that have that intersection of the two fly-ins, you are more than welcome to apply for both. One of our participants who's here today actually participated in both of our fall fly-ins because her interest areas crossed, those topics. So I'll say that, for the benefit of the group, if you are interested in both of these things, please don't hesitate or feel like you can only apply to one. Now, I'm not saying you'll automatically be accepted to both, but we definitely encourage you to share your passion for whatever the topics are to try and give you the best for your bang for your buck on this.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to be brave?
Hi, my name is Andrea Gomez. I have a question. First of all, I'm an international relations and political science major in the pre-law track. I was just working in the campaign for Joe Biden and stuff like that. So I'm very, very involved in politics, and that's something I like. And environmental politics is definitely going to be the future, even more so with the Democratic administration coming in. So that's something that I want to have experience on. And my question was, can you go like 2 semesters in a row? Like, can you do the fly-in? What are once you do it once, could you apply for it again?
Yeah, that's what I was just saying, actually. You could apply for both of them that are happening this term.
But in terms of, I think the question is if you can apply for this semester and a future one in a future semester.
Right.
Then you can. We do take into consideration when people are applying for one that was in person and then another one in person, prioritization of people who haven't been on an in-person trip. There have been students who have done 2 in-person ones, so you can definitely even apply for 2 in-person ones. But if you ended up doing one that was virtual, it would not hinder you in any way from doing a future in-person one. And in fact, I think if you performed very strongly as a participant in the virtual one, we would want to get you into DC in the future one.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I see a question in the chat. Let's see.
I also know that Carissa and Andrea both mentioned, was it Carissa? Yeah, and Andrea, I think they both mentioned environmental politics in case there was an interest in the 2 of them introducing each other to each other separately from this and making something happen with that.
So we have a question in the chat from Jessica, who's an international relations and poli-sci major, and she's asking how she can get in contact with students who participated in past programs to hear a little bit about their experiences and gain student insight.
So on the flyin.fiu.edu website, the first thing you see is the current 2 open opportunities. If you scroll a little bit past that, you can see all of the past fly-ins from the past 2 years, and a majority of them have a link to an FIU news article that includes several student quotes for each one. So I think that'd be a good place to start on that front. Obviously, if you're looking to actually directly talk to someone outside of that with some specific questions, I'll reiterate my email in the chat and we can discuss further, but definitely recommend starting there.
You are welcome. Any other questions today?
Or introductions?
I can introduce myself. I'm sweating.
Oh, no.
I'm Valeria Rodriguez, and I'm doing a master's degree in globalization and global affairs with an emphasis of globalization and security. This is my second semester, so it's been great. I have done research for majority of women health advocacy. I worked in London for a women's organization, which was ovarian cancer, and I conducted some research on that. But environmental politics has always been an interest of mine. It's something that I have not researched enough, and it just sounds very fascinating to me. So either or both fly-in seminars or programs will be awesome for me because I can either implement what I have already learned or I can learn something new and just continue some research that can also help me on my master's degree for any class or project that I have.
Awesome. Good to see you again, Valeria.
Yes.
I'm working on the space policy internship right now.
I would want to go next.
Awesome.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Jinji. Now I'm pursuing a master's degrees in global affairs from FIU. In future, I aspire to inspire future generations of women to survive for gender equality, female empowerment, and inclusive development to diminish the depopulational share of women in the workforce, especially in those high-level government positions. And this is my leadership purpose. I generally believe that the foundations of international development rely on women's leadership, and if women and other vulnerable populations, such as the youth, LGBTI, if they don't soon get involved at a specific level, how will the global community ever establish a legacy impact everywhere else in the world? So my leadership purpose is to democratize knowledge and create opportunities for the most vulnerable and disadvantaged people. Also, I plan to, well, actually, I'm just applying for the PhD. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, also I have a quick question that, so for those two programs, is it the topic only focus on the United States and the South Florida, or it just worldwide? I mean, the topic.
I would say that the policy infrastructure part of it, the understanding how laws are made and how the federal government works part of it is US. I'd say that for both topics, discussions of the actual topics of women in politics and environmental concerns with the experts that we discussed with often include international angles and perspectives. And while I would see how it turns out with these two, many of our previous fly-ins have dealt with government and non-governmental agencies that do international development work and that have careers within their agencies that are abroad.
Okay, thank you, Eric.
Of course. So in addition to looking forward to all of your applications and looking forward to two amazing fly-in seminars this semester, we look forward to a variety of FIU and DC programming that is much in the works. So my colleague, Carlos Becerra from FIU and DC is on the call. I'm gonna have him introduce himself momentarily. We are hard at work planning right before this call and after this call, a series of virtual inauguration themed programming that will explore different policy priority areas for the new administration and reflecting on what we as a nation learned about how the vote counting certification and transition process works. So all of you will be receiving, if you registered for this webinar, information about 2 events happening next week, as well as other events throughout the semester. So we hope to see you there to continue your policy education. And with that, I'd also like to invite my colleague, the leader of FIU and DC overall, Carlos Becerra, to say hi.
Hi, everyone. Great to connect with you and see your names and hear your voices. I hope you all are excited about the potential opportunity to engage with what Carrie and Eric were describing is the ecosystem that is DC. And I think with both fly-ins, you would get a great taste of, as the old adage goes, how the sausage gets made, but mostly on the policy side, how ideas and concepts kind of have to pass through these processes that are filled with debate, differences, some agreement, of course. So I think we'll give you a taste of that on both of them. If there's one thing I'd like to kind of compliment what's already been presented to you on, the individuals you're going to be interacting with on our panels and discussions, etc. Another plug, as Eric mentioned, in that case, those, it's always a great opportunity to be able to engage with them visually too, and people and the high-level guests that we're inviting are going to want to see some faces. So I'll say that. But the idiosyncrasies of the district, there's this book, and yes, women on the line. This is a man wearing a tie, so maybe we can write the authors. This is a favorite book of Eric and I's, and maybe there should be one already with a not a red-tied man on the cover. This town, it's also an affectionate name for the District of Columbia, because there's things that come with this city. You will get a taste on both of the fly-ins, the key organizations and the key players, how you message things in unique ways, the key watering holes, if you will, historical tidbits that still ring true. But undergirding all of that is the people, and something we haven't emphasized on yet just this afternoon, but I will. It's the FIU network. We are so lucky that here in the nation's capital, we have about 3,000 FIU alumni, proud FIU alumni. Many more thousands consider themselves friends of FIU. But it's really amazing, and you will get a taste of this on both of these fly-ins, the FIU graduates that are themselves making an impact, working on the Hill. Eric, at last count, I think we've touched about, I'd say, better part of close to 30 offices, maybe. If you look at the national map, where interns have worked, where we currently have staff, we currently have 4 chiefs of staff running those offices. So that's exciting. And these are this is you. One day, many of you will be working on the Hill. At the federal agencies, regardless of the administration, we're living through a transition, as Eric mentioned. Just yesterday, we thanked many FIU alumni that were current appointees of the current administration. And believe it or not, we're already ramping up to welcome new FIU appointees in the Biden administration. One quick little tidbit, and I think I'll cap it off after this, but a very important office within the executive branch is this office known as the Office in the Executive Office, the Office of Presidential Personnel. So anytime there's a new president elected and transitioning into office, Eric knows these stats better than me, though. I'm going to say 4,000 or 5,000 political.
I think that's what I found out. Yeah.
4,000 to 5,000 political appointments are made within the course on a traditional basis of the first year. Those appointments all pass through this one office. And believe it or not, one of the key advisors in that office as of last week is a proud FIU alumna, Karen Andre. That is a very good friend of ours, and we know for certain we'll plug her into our fly-ins. But you have some of your very own Panthers that are in the belly of the beast, which makes it fun to engage with them. And you'll learn a little bit more about the job that we do as we advocate for FIU, whether it be for financial aid, international student education, higher ed policy, research initiatives. Many of our alums are out there helping us just the same. So it's exciting. The year ahead, as challenging as it still is, trying to beat back a pandemic, save lives, the economic downturn that still has not fully recovered. It is a challenging time, but through opportunities like this, hopefully you also see the opportunity that is Washington, D.C. and what is possible in your careers. So.
Carlos, I pasted in the chat as a follow-up to your commentary, the link to information about the Plum Book, which is the official government document that lists all of the government jobs that get filled by a new administration after presidential transition. And that's a great resource for those interested in pursuing such a job in the future or simply understanding the infrastructure of the federal government better. And it is great not only about pursuing those jobs, but understanding the way that organizations in the DC landscape rely on this in an information capacity. Organizations like ours keeping track of who's being appointed to each of these positions that might relate to our policy priority areas, and even companies that compile information for use for other people. One of our alumni works for a company. They're not out there doing their own advocacy or mission. They're a company that does sales, Leadership Connect, that other organizations like ours subscribe to, so that we get their kind of insider subscribed news about the government. So we have an FIU alumna out there who's going through every single Plum Book entry to figure out what organizations like ours, who are clients of theirs, need to know. So the DC information infrastructure is a large one, and one with many career opportunities. So thanks, Carlos. Any last question that has popped up while we're on together? Great. So we're glad you joined us. I think we've heard some very relevant career and research interests on this call to both of these programs, and we look forward to receiving them and to seeing you at our programs within these fly-ins and beyond these fly-ins. Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody. I know a couple of people who weren't able to make it, and I think a couple of people who even were on the call asked about the recording. We will try and make that available. I don't know, Eric, can we put that on the fly-in page?
Yeah, I can put anything on the fly-in page. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll send the link to Eric, and we can get that on that flyin.fiu.edu site so that you can get all the information together in one spot. So if you wanted to re-listen to anything, that'll be available shortly. And tell all your friends. Right. Thanks so much for joining us, everybody. Have a great first week. Stay safe. Don't forget your masks.
Here,
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.